The last 2 weeks, it's felt like the whole world is talking about AI. And for good reason. In a short span of time, we've had two major announcements. The first one was DeepSeek R1, an AI model out of China that has the whole world talking because of its performance and it's how cost effective it is. Lots of questions coming out. How were they able to get access to all those GPUs? How were they able to build it for under $6 million? Did they steal OpenAI's data? And then the second announcement is OpenAI launched o3-mini, a new AI model that in of itself is super impressive. So I'm putting this video together because we're going to basically break down both of these and see how they compare. And I want to compare it from a no-code perspective. That's the goal of this channel, right? The people who watch this channel watch it because you want to build. You want to build with no coding experience, and you're most likely an entrepreneur, founder, or you at least want to be. So we're going to look at what works best, DeepSeek, OpenAI, and we're going to do it from a no-code perspective. If that sounds good, stick with me. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so I've done a couple of videos on DeepSeek already. I'm going to link them here so that you can go have a listen, go have a watch, and see everything there is to know about DeepSeek. What we're talking about is what's just come out, which is OpenAI's O3 model. Right, so I've got up Sam Altman, the founder, CEO of OpenAI, his initial announcements. o3-mini is out, smart, fast model available in ChatGPT and API. You can search the web and it shows it's thinking, so it's got a reasoning capability. Available to free tier users, click the reason button. Alrighty, so let's break this down, right? So we'll go to the announcement from OpenAI, and I'm not going to go through all of this because it's just going to bore you. But what they did was what they usually do, right? They compare o3-mini against other OpenAI models from a standards and benchmarking perspective. The first one here was competition math, right? You can see OpenAI O3 has 3 columns here. This is because we've got 3 levels of reasoning. So you can actually pick now if you want a low level, medium, or high level of reasoning, dependent on your task. So if we have a look at this, o3-mini low and medium were on par with o1-mini, but behind o1. And then o3-mini high is actually higher than o1. A bunch of others were done. So PhD level science questions, that was very similar, but you can see again, it follows the same suit. o3-mini high outperformed o1 preview and o1. Other two, really on par with o1 preview and o1, and obviously beating out o1-mini. There was a bunch of these that were done, but overall, from a standards and benchmark perspective, o3 is really setting the scene for OpenAI. So it's a big announcement. Alrighty, so another thing here is what it can handle, right? So in terms of input tokens and output tokens. So from a context window, input tokens, 200,000 tokens. So think of this as like 150,000 words, give or take, that you can give as input to the model. And then you got your max output tokens of 100,000. So you'll get like a 75,000 word or up to 75,000 word response, which means you can really give it a lot of data, process that, and give you a lot of data back. And this is very, very similar to what we had with o1. If you look at it, it's exactly the same as o1. It is higher than o1-mini and higher than o1 preview, but on par with o1-mini. Last thing I want to show you here is this in terms of cost. Now, this is a big question because this week with DeepSeek being released at 14 cents, DeepSeek at 14 cents per million input tokens, comparing that to o1 at $15 million input tokens, we now look at o3 and we're down to $4.40. We're down to $1.10 input tokens. So really starting to get to that cost effectiveness when comparing to DeepSeek. Overall, you can see a 93% cheaper than o1, 63% cheaper than o1-mini. So significantly cheaper, more cost effective when using APIs. It's going to have a massive impact. All right, so just before we get stuck in, there were some cool use cases that I found on x.com. And a specific user, Angry Tom. Definitely shout out to Angry Tom. Go follow him. These were 10 examples of using o3 and just to show you what it can really do. The first one was quite cool, which is just to create a snake game where the snake competes with each other. And obviously, o3 did this in a really quick and efficient manner. The other one I want to talk about here is Aidan Clark. He basically used o3-mini to basically build a Twitter clone, which runs in a single Python file. So he said, spare no expense, please implement dummy versions or all the major features. Make sure you spend time making the UI actually look pretty. And this is what he got as a response, but in 8 seconds. In 8 seconds, this was built out in Python and he was able to run it. And obviously this has no functionality, but from just what O3 can build, pretty cool. All right, move on to the next one here. Let's go here. This one was cool, a 3D solar system simulation, which is pretty cool. I mean, being able to pick up and just from how it looks is pretty decent. And then finally, I liked this one because this was actually a comparison to DeepSeek R1. And what was put in here was from Flavio Adamo. He said, write a Python program that shows a ball bouncing inside a spinning hexagon. The ball should be affected by gravity and friction and must bounce off the rotating balls realistically. Which one looks more realistic to gravity and friction? I would say o3-mini. It falls more natural. Where DeepSeek R1, it's like it's sticking to each little piece. Where here, it's actually bouncing. You can feel the friction. You can feel the gravity. And in terms of that little test, I blew DeepSeek out the water. So that's pretty cool. Alrighty, so this is the main meat on the bones of what we want to talk about, is comparing o3-mini to DeepSeek R1 from a no-code perspective. So I've taken some time and I've thought about what would you want to try and use o3-mini or DeepSeek R1 to achieve in terms of your no-code build and your application, right? So obviously you have the prompt that would go into a no-code builder like bolt.new or Lovable. In this case, we're going to use Lovable. But on top of that, when building out a lot of aspects, you kind of want to use o3-mini and you want to use DeepSeek R1 as a little bit of a business partner, a little bit of like a business assistant. And we're going to see which one kind of fits the bill a little bit more. And we're going to structure it around no code. So what I've done is I've come up with 5 different prompts. And these 5 different prompts are testing specific things between the two. And we're going to compare each prompt and the responses we get. So the first one here is a basic app outline. So here we're just going to say, I want to build a no-code MVP on Lovable. This is our no-code platform for a simple job board. Outline the core features I need, the data structure, and a launch timeline in clear steps. Why is this useful? It tests each model's ability to break down a project into manageable tasks, and it compares a clarity and level of detail in the recommended approach. Alrighty, so we're going to start with that. So I'm using DeepSeek R1 through OpenRouter. OpenRouter I've covered in a previous video is basically a middleman between a request and then basically multiple different LLMs that you have access to, and you can kind of pick one and chop and change. It's just easier to use this. I find it's a little bit more reliable compared to the DeepSeek website itself. So we've got DeepSeek R1 over here, and our prompt is going to be that exact one, that basic outline prompt. And then from a ChatGPT perspective, we've got o3-mini, and then we've also got o3-mini high, right? So the 3 reasoning models, we've got o3-mini at a low level, and then we've got o3-mini at a high level. So let us start with DeepSeek R1. So you'll see here it's reasoning. So it's saying I need to build someone to help someone build a no-code MVP for a job board using Lovable. First, I need to outline the core features. For the core features, the basics are job listings, user registration, so forth, so forth. So you can see it's reasoning. Because this takes a while, I'm going to just start these up as well. Let's have them all run. So this is o3-mini, and obviously it's moving a lot quicker, as we can see. So I'm going to skip until the end, and then we can go through all the responses. Alrighty, so it's completed, and I've got all 3 up here. So we've got DeepSeek R1, o3-mini, o3-mini high. If we look at how long it took to reason, I don't know if it's because we're using OpenRouter or not, but it took 138 seconds for DeepSeek to perform its reasoning. For o3-mini, it took a few seconds. I'm thinking under 5. And then for o3-mini high, it took 11 seconds. So significantly less for o3, but that also might be an OpenRouter thing, just to keep that in mind. Okay, then we're looking at the actual reasoning itself, right? So you can see the thought, the reasoning here. DeepSeek did a really in-depth level of reasoning, and that also might be because of, and that might give us a reason as to why it was so long, 138 seconds. Because it goes, you can just see the length here. Compared to o3-mini is pretty much like 2 or 3 paragraphs. And then obviously o3-mini high is a lot longer. But in terms of actual reasoning, the longest here appears to be DeepSeek. All right, that being said, let's look at the actual result. All right, so all 3 give us core features as we asked for. The DeepSeek R1 gives us user roles, job posting, and so forth. So we've got 6 different features here with a couple bullet points underneath. o3-mini does a little bit of a better job to not just give us, as you can see here, like we've got public job board. We don't just have job listings page. We've got an actual detailed explanation around that job listings page, or for the search and filter functionality. So it's not just saying, search and filter functionality. We need to have that. It's saying allow users to filter jobs by keywords, location, job type, industry. Where, if we compare that to, for example, if we compare that to job posting and management, employers some job listing, and it gives title, description, salary, category, location, but it's a lot quicker with R1. It's not giving as much detail. And that's just o3-mini. If we go to o3-mini high, if we just go to user registration, let me see if I can get something that's similar here. So let's compare public job board in o3-mini to o3-mini high, job listings and detail. So just the job listings page, display all active job listings with basic information versus display a list of jobs with key details, include basic filters to help users narrow down their search. So you can already see it's doing an additional, it's adding that additional level of detail. Same thing with a job detail page, a dedicated page for each job showing full details. Here, show full job description, requirements, benefits, and other details. Provide an apply now button or form. So it's actually thinking through what buttons would need, what forms would we need. That being said, it also just says show full job descriptions, requirements, benefits, and other details. So it doesn't actually list every detail. Where here it is saying etc., but I feel like we're getting a little bit more. Dedicated page for each one showing full details, description, responsibilities, requirements, application, and so forth. So basically, if we scroll down to data structure, now this is our breakdown of our data structure, right? So it's picked up that we're using Lovable, which is good across all 3. What I like about R1 is it gives us our data structure in a table, and I just feel like that looks better. And that's just a personal preference, but you can just copy this table, pop it into an Excel spreadsheet, or send it through to a co-founder or whoever you need to. You can pop it in an email. Way over here, it's got fields, and then it's got job tables. The jobs table will have these fields, and then the applications table will have these fields. And if that works for you, great. If it doesn't, like I said, it's just personal preference. Again, fields are very similar, but one thing I will say is even jobs table, right? So we've got jobs table collection. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fields. We've got more fields in o3-mini than we do in o3-mini high. That's not to say this is a bad thing. It's basically taken and consolidated a few of these, right? And it's added in something. So like application deadline being optional is something we don't get here. So it's, there is an idea here that doesn't have to always be longer. It may be, more efficient and simpler. And it's obviously dependent on how this finally looks or what works best for you in terms of your no-code breakdown. And then we come to our launch timeline, right? So if we scroll down here, R1 doesn't do a really good job of breaking down our launch. It does it by week. So we've got 6 weeks to launch. And here it's going week 1 to 2 planning and setup, right? And then it will give you like finalize feature lists, sketch wireframes, set up database and tables. So, over 2 weeks, 3 main features or 3 main epics that you want to follow. That's it. With o3-mini, it breaks it down first 2 days, second 3 days, last 2 days. It's breaking it down. It's giving us a little bit more. It's saying use Lovable's design tools or external tools. It's talking about the actual no-code application we're using. And then finally, very similar, but a little bit more in depth as it should be, o3-mini high is giving us a, more detailed breakdown. But, in this case, o3 definitely beats out R1 in terms of a timeline that you can follow, and then you can detail and really get down to the granular level of detail. Awesome. And then if we scroll down, there's some final tips, right? So final tips, very, very similar across both o3-mini and o3-mini high. One thing that you do not see in o3 that you see with R1, which I really like, and something I've really just noticed now, is example no-code tools. So it's saying for your database, you could use Airtable, right? And it's on the money. I use Airtable, right? So for your front end, you can use Bubble, or in this case, we're going to be using, or softer if you're using Airtable. So it's actually authentication, file storage, email. It's giving you recommendations of known no-code tools or low-code tools out there that you can use when building your application with Lovable. So if you need a database, you can go and use Airtable. Where for the o3-mini and o3-mini High, that's not done. They don't give you recommendations. If you ask for them, they will give it to you, but they don't just give it off the bat. And that's one of the things I definitely found with R1, which was quite interesting. Given what we found in number 1, I think we can go straight to number 3, because I want to talk about integrations and automations. Specifically, the prompt will focus on suggest 3 integrations or automations I can set up with Lovable to speed up recruiting tasks, like notifying recruiters when a candidate applies. Let's see how it's handled. Alrighty, so completed. So what I really like about DeepSeek R1 here is, let's compare o3-mini to o3-mini High first. We've got a trigger, action, and benefits. The trigger for o3-mini is set up a workflow in Lovable to trigger when an application is created. Action, integrate with an email service provider like SendGrid, Mailgun, or even Gmail. So it is giving us some examples, some tools to dispatch a formatted email using a template that pulls in dynamic content from the application. So it's giving us some tools we can use, but it's not giving us anything way too in-depth or telling us exactly how to do it. o3-mini High is saying when a new record is added to your applications collection, push a custom message to your chosen communication channel with details like candidate name, applied position, and a direct link to the candidate's profile application. So a little bit more that we can do, and it is talking about an integration. Yeah, use Zapier, Integromat, which is make.com, or any other native integrations Lovable might offer with Slack or Teams. So it is giving us a little bit more of an in-depth answer, but it's not giving us exactly what we need to do. I would still sit here and go like, okay, do I need to go to Zapier and set up something there? Or do I message Lovable when I'm building the app and say I want to integrate this? Like, I understand I need to integrate something and then I have a workflow, but how do I do this? That's where R1 comes in, which I really like, which is it gives us our trigger, new entry in the applications table. So remember that table that showed us with all the different data fields? It's mentioning that, right? So in that table, we've got data fields, which we can refer to. Action, send an email Slack notification to the recruiter with candidates' details. Include a direct link to the application in the employer dashboard. Tools, Airtable for the database, Zapier for the automation, Slack, Gmail for the notification. Then setup steps. Create a zap that triggers when a new record is added to the application table. Filter by employer's user ID to identify the right recruiter. Send a message to the recruiter's Slack channel or email using dynamic fields. Candidate name applied to job title. So with your drag and drop in Zapier, when you create a zap, you can do this, or in make.com. So it's giving us a lot more than I believe o3-mini and o3-mini High is in this regard. So it's a more step-by-step approach on the exact tools you need to use. And it does this throughout, right? So over here, another thing was, auto post approved jobs to social media. So like create a zap. This is how you can create it, and so forth. So I like the format over here. I like the level of depth over here. Not to say o3-mini is doing a bad job, but in this test, DeepSeek R1 is definitely winning in my opinion. It's giving us enough detail that I can follow it step by step, rather than saying, hypothetically, you can use any automation platform. You can go to this one or that one and you can create it. That's what o3-mini is kind of giving us. Alrighty, and then last but not least, we're going to talk about monetization strategy as one of the other prompts we'll use. And in this case, we're asking for 2 monetization strategies for the no-code job platform. The reason I want to look at this is, as builders, we all want to monetize our applications. And if we can rely on AI to help us build that strategy out using current trends, then, how great is that? So let's see how R1 versus O3 does in this regard. So R1's still actually detailing its response, but just off the bat, so R1 is saying we've got 2 practical monetization strategies. And then again, it gives us examples. It gives us tools, no-code tools we can use, or tools we can use. Stripe, MemberStack, Bubble's native payment features. Where in the overview for O3, we don't get that. So unless you ask for it, you won't get these specific examples of these tools you can use. And I feel like that's very helpful, because there's no coders. It's like, okay, what tool can I use? I don't know what the best tools are. Do I have to go look at a YouTube channel or a YouTube video to try and understand it? I don't know. So I like that. Then if we come down, we've got the pricing models, right? So the pricing models for o3-mini and mini High, very similar. They're both going for standard or featured listing. In this case, you got featured, and then they've added in here enhanced candidate access, a one-time fee to unlock additional candidate information. Again, that's that's a variation of featured. What is nice is they do give us pricing that we can use and how long we can run these for, or how long they can be available for. There is some mention here of payment gateways at the bottom. So with payment gateways like Stripe or PayPal to process one-time payments. So that is good. That's one thing I did not see. So, but I think the level of detail you get here when we scroll. So if we look at the subscription models for employers, the pricing structure in terms of tiered plans, basic, pro, and enterprise, then how to implement payment integration, Stripe, using Stripe via these integrations to handle recurring payments. And then the user access I like is the database logic, right? So again, it refers to our specific tables. In the users table, add a plan field and link it to the permissions rule. Use MemberStack or Bubble's native membership tools to restrict job posting limits and analytics access. Upselling, why it works, some featured, the pay per post and featured listings, pricing for that, how to implement again after employees submit a job to redirect them to a payments page before admin approval. Use Zapier to mark jobs as paid. So it could go into a little bit more detail, but doesn't. Obviously, in terms of O3, we have final thoughts after that section, right? So implementation on Lovable is 4 points and maybe 4 or 5 points here on o3-mini and o3-mini high, where we get a lot more in depth on R1. But from a monetization perspective, I think either of these you're going to get the same results. R1's not doing that great of a job to say specifically we need to go here, and this is exactly how we do it. Like I've set up Stripe. I've actually got a video on it. I'll pop it somewhere here on how to integrate Stripe with Lovable. And it's not giving us that level of detail across any one of these three. So, but from a monetization point, because we're not asked for integrations, we're asked from monetization. So it is giving us monetization ideas. And I think all three are pretty much on the money there. Awesome. So I really hope this helps. Those were 3 prompts that we visited. Out of the 5, you can go back and just pause the video and grab the other 2 if you want to try those out. Reasoning models in general are doing a great job, be it DeepSeek, be it OpenAI. The level of getting closer and closer to that AGI, we're getting there. We're not there at all just yet, but we're getting there. And you can see when you look at the reasoning of these models and how they come to their final answer, they go through a lot. They research a lot. They are trying to understand as much context as possible. From a founder perspective, from no code perspective, you can literally use this as your assistant and you can run your ideas through it and it will give you detailed responses back. Sometimes with a little bit of fluff, but I think it's getting better and better at doing that. So really awesome stuff. Go check it out. All the links will be in the description and let me know what you guys think. I will see you guys in the next video. Cheers.